So we have Matteo here. We are in the home gym and we are hoping we can actually record this episode. It's raining like a lot right now. That's why we're not downstairs, but we need to shoot the video. We couldn't shoot it yesterday either. Something happened on Sunday. And the more we try to talk, the harder it's raining.
It's
so
like raining.
like we're getting the tropical storm treatment. So hopefully it doesn't disturb the audio too much. Welcome to episode 172.
Yeah, 172.
Already. And then we have Matteo with us as a co-host. As you can see, the boy is growing. He's going to be a large individual. So,
He's already getting like the legs and
I don't know, he's over 25 kilos already at 5 months old. So it's going to be a fairly big dog, let's put it this way. So we had a good training session at the home gym this morning. So it was cool. We're going to show much more of that. And today I wanted to talk a bit about performance actually and the misconception around it. So I was talking to a client of mine who wants me to help him toward a prep for a physique competition. And what I think is really cool. I like bodybuilding. I don't do it myself because I don't have the physique for it. I'm a strong man, always will be, I guess. But it's cool. I love bodybuilding. I love the dedication to it. And what he brought to the fitness industry. But first of all, let's be honest. Let's give bodybuilding its due. Most gyms were created and are centered around bodybuilding. It is still the leading force in the fitness industry, way over performance. And it transformed nutrition and training the way we know it. Right. But I think there's a misconception that come down to that. So for example, I was talking to my client that is doing the physique competition and he doesn't take steroids. So first of all, it's going to be a lot harder, let's be honest. But there's another aspect to that I wanted to touch on today, is that you cannot have those pro bodybuilder training sessions and not be on steroids. For a simple reason, is that steroids stabilize you. Like if you take hormones, if you take testosterone, you are stable, like on a 24-hour, day, on your week, on your months, you're very stable if your levels, on your levels of hormones. That is not the case when you're not on steroids. The shit goes up and down continuously. Testosterone goes up and down throughout the day. And when you blast yourself in training, your testosterone goes down, it affects recovery, it affects how much you can punish your muscles and things like this. Hormones are not just to give you a better pump, and they say it helps recovery, but you have to understand what that means is that when they say it helps recovery, it means like, for example, when a case of most of the training that we see from bodybuilding, which is one body part a week, and then you go to the next. When you're not on steroids, that's not how this works. If you're on steroids, you can blast the muscle once a week and let it recover throughout the week because it has a capacity to absorb the punishment and recover from it. If you're not on steroids, most likely, not always the case, but most likely, first of all, you cannot punish the muscle as much as is needed. Like you can follow the template and do the 5 sets of 10 and all that stuff. But at the moment, it's neural output. Like the muscle capacity is just not there to punish yourself in a pro bodybuilding type of workout. So,
especially if you're following a pro bodybuilding
training session, but without the stuff. You cannot punish the muscle enough. If you were to punish the muscle enough, you would not recover from it. And especially like most cases in people that don't do steroids, you'll understand, is like you feel like training a body part once a week is not enough. Because it is not enough. Like you will recover because of the amount of punishment that you put on the muscle in that session. You want to do it again probably 3-4 days later. Like the 7 days later does not work in that system. I think people have put training out of context. And so I think it goes way past bodybuilding, but we're going to touch into strongman and sprinting to use you as an example. Because I think people fundamentally do not understand how the whole thing works. So in the case of my clients, it's 5 weeks out. And then I'm looking at his program and I'm like, there is no way you can do this volume effectively. It's like, I used to come from CrossFit. This is low volume. It's low volume toward performance in CrossFit, where you need to do stuff for time and to be able to endure the abuse. But it's super high volume for bodybuilding if you understand what is it you're looking for, which means abusing the muscle, letting him recover so he grows stronger, better quality, getting leaner, all that stuff. That is the intent of your training right now for a physique competition. It's not who can bang the most reps, who can do the reps the fastest. It's not position over tension. It's none of this. It's literally like stress the muscle, allow him to recover so he looks bigger, stronger, better, and things like this. Without the steroids, right, a whole different goal. But without the steroids, that once a week might not work. Because again, you cannot punish your muscle enough during the workout, and you recover faster in a way because the muscle will not grow for a week straight. That's also what the steroids will give you. It will give you that stability into your hormonal levels on a daily basis, but it will also prolong the anabolic phase where you can just keep growing for a week. Without the steroids, it ain't working. So your training program has to reflect that. If you train like Dorian Yates did, I did that when I was 19 for like 2 years, guess what? You're not bringing the intensity that Dorian was bringing in training. You're not as strong as he is. You're not Dorian Yates. And you're not taking the shit that he's taking at that moment. You can't train like that. It's not how this works. Yeah. And so I think it's a huge problem on two levels. First of all, there's too many people doing bodybuilding programs that is not suited for them because they're not on the shit. Second of all, pro bodybuilders have a life that allow them to do just train. Yeah. And that's a big one. Really good point. Yeah. Right. I remember when it was like the sprint training. Well, that's all you could do.
I was going to say, like in general, like I feel like taking a pro bodybuilder as an example and following his training schedule, your life is not going to be the same as that pro bodybuilder. Like you're going to have maybe kids, a job, a partner, stress, all the things that the pro bodybuilder, his life is built around his sport. And for normal people, like that's not.
That obsession is not feasible. And on top of it, like, you're not Dorian Yates. Dorian Yates won his first competition, I think, after 8 months of training. If I'm not mistaken, he turned pro within 18 months of training. He didn't take, he wasn't, I don't think, if I remember correctly, he wasn't even on the juice. He wasn't even taking steroids for his first competition. He was training 3 times a week. He had legs that were already world class. I think he took steroids like right before he turned pro or some stuff like that. Well, guess what? You're not him. Like he gained, I can't remember, like it was an insane thing, like 20 kilos of muscle in the first year and a half, and most of it, like the first 10, 15, without steroids in a year. Well, guess what? You're not him. A lean muscle, and he looked good, and he had fantastic legs already. Can you do that? You're not Dorian Yates. Ronnie Coleman turned pro clean, which is, he had like, you know, like the 22 inches or 24 inches arms already. Those guys that we all worship, because God knows they took the human body to incredible lengths, are human specimens. They have a muscle capacity you and I do not have. So following their training is absurd. Their training is designed to fit their strength, which is pound the muscle, let it grow big, recover, grow bigger. But they have a capacity for abuse toward the muscle that is outside the norm. That's why they are pro. All the pros out there can do things to their muscle. You cannot. You can think you train like them, but the thing is you cannot bring the abuse on the muscle that they can.
There is simply something that's called talent, and some people have it towards something.
So I have the performance box, right, where I was always defining exercises people into things. Neural output, muscle capacity, skill. Well, guess what? They are monsters at muscle capacity. Yeah. That's what they're born for. Now, are they monsters at skills? Not necessarily. Are they monsters at neural output? A lot of them are not that strong considering how big they are. So, for example, a neural output would be like a 65 kilo powerlifter, like who can, you know, squat 4 times body weight. The neural output on the dude or the lady is humongous, right? Yeah. Skill would be Olympic weightlifting. Those are people that can endure the skill with heavy weight all day long. And that's the point I wanted to make today is I don't think people understand talent. No, they don't see it. Like, for example, you know what talent is the capacity to do your sport over and over and over again every day, 5-6 days away, and recover from it. Yeah. Like, for example, the sprint training, most people can't take it. What you were doing, my feet would do it twice a week and it's just constantly sore. There's no way I could do that on a regular basis for a year straight. Anybody can do it for 3 weeks. But guess what? You're going to start breaking soon. You just don't have the talent to do that at that level every day and recover. And it's not to say you don't have another talent. You just might not have this one. Like I can't be a pro bodybuilder because my muscle cannot endure that type of abuse. They don't grow. My back grows, but the rest, they don't grow. They just don't grow. But you know what I can do? I can train heavy, strong men 3 times a week and have no problem. That's how I did a 1,000-pound yoke carry. You know what? How I did it? Because for 5 years straight, I put 800 pounds every week on my back. And I had no problem. I could do it twice a week if I wanted, which is absurd. So I would do farmer's walk, and on a program, I don't know anybody that could do it. Even my fellow strongmen were like, don't do it. Because when I did the 1,000-pound yoke carry, so you won't be able to train for 3 weeks. I did the 1,000-pound yoke carries, 5 meters, let's be honest. But I did the stuff, the build-up, and the week before I had over 900. And the week after that, I still squatted 500. I still did mostly of my training because I was mostly paying attention, being careful because it told me to not do it. But honestly, a week past that, I was back to normal over 800. It had almost no effect on me. A 1,000-pound yoke carry had no effect on me. It's ridiculous, but that's only true with strongmen and with carries, by the way. When I was doing like heavy squat, heavy deadlift in the same week, I could do that for 3 weeks. And then I was shot. I couldn't even press anymore. Yeah. But then you see the guys in powerlifting just going back to session after session after session, and they can absorb. Just you with sprint, where you could do that shit 5-6 times a week. How many training sessions at your max did you do?
Well, I had a time where I trained twice a week too. So
twice a day.
Twice a day. Yeah, sorry, twice a day, and then. I think I went up to like 10 sessions a week, but then different components and more. Like sometimes when sprinters get really good, they split sessions in half. So yeah, in that type of thing, and then you can have more volume. But yeah, I think around 10.
Right, but so like to be a top sprinter, what is it required? It's required that at 14 you run a 12.4 or 12.8.
At 14 I run a 12.8.
And even your first race, right? And then after that, he was training every single day while being in school and still recovering.
Yeah, and then I'm still not one of the, like you also have 16-year-old girls that run an 11.5. Like you have a next level of talent too. Like it's...
But for me, I look at it just from the recovery perspective, just from the training perspective. Like you would take the train, go to the track, get there at what, 7?
I had different types of schedules, but I had one where I would train in the morning, go to school, then go to Rotterdam, and then
so it's an hour on the train.
Yeah, and then train and then come back and do the same thing.
And you'd be home by 10.
Yeah.
Right. So probably not eating enough, just shoving some carbs at night and then do it the next day.
Yeah.
Right. But most people can't do that. If you do that for like you did it for like 2 years.
Yeah, I did it since I did it in different types. I tried a lot of different formats, but the same quality and same volume of work I did for since I come
around. People talk about dedication, which is true, but it's also the talent to just recover from that and making progress out of it. And not breaking, by the way.
That too, and it's also like, what do you want out of your life outside of training? What I think is a very... Where my question is that, do you think that the bodybuilding concept is then a good base to build like regular fitness programs on?
No, it's horrible.
Because I feel like if you have bodybuilding is such a taxing sport, right? And if you have your daily life on the side, it's almost impossible to base a schedule off of that.
And that's gonna bring us to the next point. I also wanted to talk about nutrition when it comes to bodybuilding. So it's a very interesting way how things have evolved. Bodybuilding used to be about training. Like if you look at all the Flex magazine, which is how I learned English, was reading Flex magazine, forget French school. It was all about Flex magazine, so I bought it for 2 years. Every month. There was the American, the American, not bibliothèque, but the American, it was a newspaper, it was a newspaper store that sold all the American stuff. That's all they had. It was an English, store, and so I bought, and they had Flex magazine. So I bought that.
Probably for way more expensive.
It doesn't matter. That was a Bible. I didn't care. I would have paid 100 euros. I was like, Grandma, I would have paid whatever was necessary. It's always cheap when you're not paying. So I would buy Flex magazine, and then of course, stupid me would train like Kevin Levroni for 6 months, say, oh, I'm not making the progress. No shit. And then I try eating like them and all that. But back then, and if you look from the 70s to the 2000s, when you were born, I was doing that shit before that. It was all about training. That's the only thing that mattered is what is your training like? And looking at the training, it was absurd. Like the dudes were doing stuff. Like again, you have to be that gifted to get away with it. Like again, like not to go back to it, but like Sean Ray walked into a gym one day and the gym owner asked him, are you here? Are you getting ready for a show? And Sean Ray's like, no, I just want to start lifting. I didn't even started lifting yet. And the guy thought he was getting ready for a show, which he did 3 months later and won. Or did he do like a month later and won without ever lifting? Or like, you know what I mean? Like Phil Heath like was a basketball player. A year later, he's turning pro. Like I think he showed up with his first competition without lifting ever. Some shit like that.
Yeah, but it's the same thing for people who are extremely gifted with like being super smart or like, like they do shit where people study for like they dedicate their whole life into studying for one thing, and you see a kid, like a 14-year-old kid who's just reading it once and then figures out the whole
Right, but so let's not ask that 14-year-old to explain to us how to become smart. Yeah. I'm going to go with dude who struggled his entire life to that. Right. So that's a little bit the problem we're having with the fitness industry now, and then that with that reliance on bodybuilding, is we're asking extremely gifted people who are gifted toward the muscle capacity things to tell us how they did that. Well, it doesn't matter. You can't. So that one body part a week is just doesn't work. You need more work with less abuse. That's why CrossFit works so well, because it was that continuance, like we're not going to let you recover. Like without juice, it works better for most people. But even if we talk about CrossFitters, they have the capacity to recover from the volume of CrossFit, which most people do not. So you can't ask Tia to me what she's doing, because you can't. You cannot do that. Like I remember that conversation with CJ, the owner of Invictus, right? And he trained some greatest athletes, and some of them that were so good, whose name, of course, I forget. He was like a monkey could have trained the guy. I was just blasting him. The next day would come back and ask for more. Whereas they were training partners back then. He was like, take me 3 days to recover. He come the next day or even the same day and do some more, because the dude had that thing where he could just recover, right? You had for sprinting, I had for strongman. It's like, but that's why I'm not going to be a pro bodybuilder. I don't have it. I don't have the shape of the muscle. I don't have the capacity for the muscle. I'm not like lean, like, I mean, like there's an entire thing. And so to go back to the point, is like, back then it was all about training. And there's been gradually a shift toward nutrition in bodybuilding, where it seems that that's the only thing people care to hear about, is how bodybuilders eat. I'm like, are you nuts? Like, this is not how this works. A pro bodybuilder, first of all, is on the juice, is extremely gifted, is naturally either lean or huge. Like the guy has to touch weights and start growing muscle, and it really hasn't stopped since. And his nutrition is based on someone who devoted his life to that, who was a coach, who's helping him finding the stuff and all that stuff. But you have to understand that all he does is train, eat, rest. That's it. He doesn't have a life.
Outside of besides the point maybe, but is also extremely impressive that you can devote your life towards one thing like that.
I'm extremely impressed.
But I mean, it's also not necessarily something that you maybe want to desire as a more regular person or someone who just enjoys to do it. You know what I mean?
No, exactly. But the problem is people take them and then they go, well, if I do 60% of what he does, then I'll get 60% of the results. And I got to tell you, that is not how this works. They're not the same human being you are.
Outside of that, don't have the same digestion as you are.
They can't digest the same way, and then they can't eat and do nothing for 2 hours, waiting for their next meal, sitting at home, being able to digest, like normally and everything. And so they're ingesting quantities of protein you can't digest, and you don't train like them anyway. But you can't digest that. You can't digest that much protein. Like the nutrition plan is based on something that is so specific to a very specific sport, but it has, because they have achieved such amount of muscle mass being so lean, we take it as, well, let's do what they do, just less of it. And I got news for you, that is not how this works. Training to nutrition is just, it's not applicable. Not like that. Like I don't have a course to teach you how to be smart. I can teach you, do you want me to teach you how to read studies my way? Right, I can do a course and I'll be like, so, we're going to take a study and I'm going to give you the keywords and see the patterns here and there. Okay, let's move on to the next one. And
I will confess, I will not catch up even if you would explain it to me like
and
that.
I do every time. It's, oh, look, this study says this and this and this, but see the pattern, like when you take it over there, it works like that. And obvious. I have clients. I have clients that are very, very smart. Like one of them is an engineer, everything. He's been following me forever. And I still lose him every time I do this. And it's not to brag. The point is, you know, do you really want to ask me how to do this? No, because again, I have my own talent toward that. That means that our talent is hitting a target no one can reach. Genius is hitting a target no one can see. I see stuff that are shaped a certain way, and I'm like, this is obvious, and I put them together, and everybody's like, it works, no one knows why. I know why, it's obvious. Right, that's how it works. So you can't take advice from me on how to get there, though. You know what I mean? Like that's right. So that's not how this works. So it's a lot of it is the same thing for pro athletes, offering what they do and say do it less. Like for example, like the template that I put strongman once a week now. I used to put strongman twice a week, but because I could do it. But yeah, but at some point I had to realize that I was the only one who could do it, who can recover from it. So most people had to, you all know this, had to learn to, you know, go easier on the stuff and things like this. But okay, but so as a coach, it's my responsibility to understand that and program better so that people are not, you know, blasted on a regular basis. But I feel like when we look at bodybuilding, is driving the fitness industry in the wrong place, where we're just promoting those monsters in a good way. Those genetically gifted people thinking we can do some of what they do and get some of the results. And I got news for you, that's not how life is.
So how do you think that the fitness industry got more shifted towards nutrition, and what do you think the danger is that from that instead of...
Right, yeah, well, let's talk about this. So if you look 70s, 80s, 90s, even 2000, it was all about training. That's the only thing people care about. And then for the last 10 plus years, you saw a shift toward nutrition. I think that shift happened at the same time the usage of drugs just went through the roof. Like you can relate that to when insulin started to pop up in the system and where drugs just became insane, and it became less important to train than it was to take supplements. If you look at the supplement industry going up, you're going to see their rise going with the rise of nutrition, because they started pushing nutrition being in a way more important than training, which is completely insane. But I think it's a money thing. Yeah. I think it's, how are you going to sell training?
Yeah, exactly.
You know how hard it is to sell training? Like I have the template and everything. Who wants to do this shit? Or, you know, year in, year out. Like, so that template, that first fit template, right, that was my training every week for 5 years, 6 years. Do you really want to do that? Like, I don't. I mean, I did but that's because that's who I am, really. But because I could recover from it, it wasn't fucking up my entire week either. By the way, saying that, I had training session where for the next 3 hours, I was useless even at work. So thank God I was working for myself. But if I had a normal job, day job where I had to go work for someone, showing up the state I was in after my hard training session, I would have gotten fired. Yeah. But so you're going to do that training to 70%, and then that's going to get you a 700-pound yoke. That's not how this works. That's not how this works. It's the same thing for sprinting. It's like learning from her how to sprint. It was 2 sessions a week. We're still on it. And it's basic because I get destroyed.
Yeah, it was for me also good to understand. It was for me a huge learning experience to coach you into sprinting. I was still coaching you into sprinting. Yeah. It was
because I couldn't do it.
Fascinating because I was not used to training dudes like that and with the background you have. So he's super athletic and he picks up super fast. But then we had like some issues with the foot, with the right foot. had to learn. You had to learn really well how to be more light on your feet instead of putting your weight in the ground. And for me, those things were things that were, well, I'm a 60 kilo.
It's not that. You're talented. No, you're talented. You had it. I don't.
For me, it was
Bottom line, you had it. I don't.
It was just very interesting to see it from such a different point of view and to also guide you in the right direction from different.
But you can say it. Like I make fun of myself all the time. You did not understand how it was taking me so long. It's okay. I don't get it when people take too long to do certain things easier. That's my everyday life. I don't understand why all of you haven't figured out the Q training by now. Mm-hmm. It's okay. Because I know a few times you looked at me going, "Oh, that's better." Mm-hmm. Wait, see, why are you so slow catching that? Because I was not nearly as talented as you are. My feet didn't progress as fast as yours. The hammies didn't connect and didn't just respond. I didn't learn the drills as fast as you did. Yeah, because I'm just not as good as you are. It takes longer for me, and it takes longer to recover, so I can do less sessions. And on top of it, those sessions are less productive. So it takes me a fuck ton more time to go anywhere than it does you. And that's okay. That is how this works.
For me, what was the biggest learning experiences was how to explain something that you would understand and that you could adapt better. Because at first I would give you notes on things which made sense in my head. I was like, yeah, you just do that. And for you, it was like explain. So at some point we would find good keywords that would hit you, and that was, I think, very important.
Right. Back at it, you were saying like you had to change the cues that for you were obvious and did not work for me. I remember the sessions where I am not unathletic, but picking up your stuff, I was like, I feel so stupid right now. Mm-hmm. It's amazing. Like I've never felt, like jiu-jitsu, like skillful sports. I could pick up Olympic weightlifting, I don't like it, but I pick movement up fast. I'm good at patterns, I'm good at movement, I pick fast. The stuff you were showing is like, I can't do that. So, so I had to ask for very basic steps and to repeat them again and again. And every time my feet would hurt, and I was like, oh, I'm a little bit better. And I could see her looking at me going like, right, so are you moving on to the next stage now? Like at first, which is okay, because I know exactly how you feel. That's why I was looking at you. I was like, I know, I suck, I do. I'm not a natural sprinter. But you see
but it was also, I think, and that I think for coaches, that is very important, is to not get stuck, at least for me as a coach, was not get stuck on what you know, but also to see how what you know can apply to someone else and how you can translate your language into a language that someone else understands. I think that for me is, as a coach, was very important.
Right, but see what the key was. It wasn't to take your training and make it less.
Yeah.
It's not that. You had to change the stuff to teach me how to run, the basics, like how to get my feet stronger. Like it was an entirely different training than yours. Yeah. It wasn't yours minus. It was a different training, so I could learn, because it had to be adapted to my capacity toward it. And my capacity is slower than yours. Yeah. That has to be understood. I mean, and so you'll be able to pound your hammies and your glutes that I can't do because they're just not ready for it. So that means that I won't be able to push in a training session nearly as hard as you do. So I won't get as much out of those training sessions. So in a way, I needed to do, my feet needed to could not recover from the pounding, but the movement had to be repeated more often, because it would take me so much longer to get to the correct stimulus. And so I see really the same thing when it comes to bodybuilding, is that or training in general, is like you have to understand that the stimulus might not be there for you. You have to do it more often because the intensity just isn't there in that aspect. But at the same time, you have to do it more often, but within your capacity to recover. So it's a matter of skill versus muscle capacity versus neural output. It's like, where are you? And that's what as an advice, that's what I would give all of you, is like, where is your thing? Is it neural output? Is it muscle capacity? Is it skill? Me, it was obviously neural output, because I have an endless amount of it. Go figure. Mm-hmm. Like, I can do the yoke carry and do it again and do it again. And it happened that carries my body could recover from. Well, guess what? That's what needs to happen.
Yeah.
I need to do more. I need to do more heavy carries because that's what I'm gonna be the best at. And then when it came to work on the press, that required a lot more. Like I had to back down everywhere. I couldn't pound it the way I wanted for others. So I had to be. Suddenly, the skill became far more important. It was an entirely different approach. For example, learning to press correctly was an entirely different approach than learning to do carries. Carries, I could just count. So that's all I did. Twice a week, do heavy, fuck it. There was almost no programming. You just go heavy every week.
Yeah.
One time heavy, one time distance. Because that's the two things you see in strongman. And that's all I had to do. That's it. But that's because it worked for me, because there was no need to be smart about it. When it came to pressing, I like, all right, so then assistants work, the triceps, but if I did it too often, they would shut off. And I mean, so I had to press more often, but not pound as much, and then learn to be more skill dependent than just, I have big shoulders, but like the neural output was a problem. So I mean, like then suddenly all that had to come into play. So as an athlete, what is your thing?
For me, it reminds me on that podcast that you made about the training environment and how training should fit your needs and who you are and what you want. I feel like, Matteo, don't do that. I feel like that leads all back to this in a weird way, right? Yeah. Like, and in a way, it's very simple, because why would you do something you're not gifted or good at or like? And why would you force yourself into a situation where you're not comfortable or where you're not just get your benefits out of? But I think a lot of people oversee how important that actually is.
Well, it's hard to tell yourself you suck sometimes. It's like me, I was like, oh, cool, sprinting. Let me put some energy into it because I could see the benefits. But it's true that the progress was so long. But at the same time, I didn't care.
You get benefits on different things.
Right. And then I was like, it's going to help me. Yeah. And it's going to help me for strongman.
Yeah,
for example, it's going to help me for other stuff. And then and that's okay. But like for example,
but then
like
don't tell yourself you're going to be a world champion on the 100 meters, right?
Exactly.
For me, it was the same thing with lifting. Like,
and don't start buying a sprint program online that is for a collegiate athlete to make it to world class.
Yeah.
That program is not going to help you. But yet we do that for bodybuilding, where we take programs or powerlifting or stuff that are for world-class athletes, and we make it at a collegiate level, thinking, oh, that will allow me to progress a little bit, but can you recover from it? Do you have that or whatever? Otherwise, you have to adapt. Like, if you look at the great ones, they always adapted to themselves either, but maybe a more high-rep stuff, less pounding is better for you. Or
well, you hear the really great athletes always say how much they know where they need to be and what they need to do to get to a peak. Right. So in a way that...
But what kills me with all this is the fitness industry using those top athletes as a way to monetize a training that cannot work for you personally. And again, the steroid stuff for me in bodybuilding is humongous, because I've seen time and time again, like your training, if the guy is on steroids and is giving you his plan of training, like you have to understand, like the context has changed. It is not the same thing. It's just not the same thing. It's your training will have to be different than his. So like separating context from training is so dangerous.
It all comes back to making money, right? And that's what makes it, in a way, also sad. So the way to sell is to put a big face or a big name on a template to sell it better and easier.
But at the end, so for you, right, what do you need to do? You need to understand the context in which the program is created, right? Mm-hmm. And again, back to the bodybuilder, like stuff like that, and understanding that the people showing it to you have their own advantages. What are yours? What are you good at? Are you toward the neural output guy? Are you toward a muscle capacity? Are you toward skill? So for example, an Olympic weightlifter has to have that coordination, that skill level, and the capacity to put heavy weights on his frame on a daily basis. Do you have both? Otherwise, there's only so far you can be. You're gonna have to be very strong, but being able to put the weight on your frame constantly with that capacity to learn skill fast. if you want to go at a high level, right? Or are you more like a power lifter, like neural output, right? Within your own weight class, but heavily toward neural output, the skill being a bit less? Or are you a strongman that needs a little bit of everything? It needs to be strong, but it also needs to have strength, endurance. There's less skill in strongman than in powerlifting because it's less specialized. There's still a lot of skill in strongman, but being less specialized allows for more broad strength. But for example, can you recover from static lifts versus carries? Which one do you recover the best from? For me, it wasn't even close. It was carries all the way. So like, do you choose your sport or is your sport choosing you? I'm sorry, I've been around very good people for a very long time. Your sport chooses you.
Yeah.
And so, but that's not to say you shouldn't do what you want, or you shouldn't do CrossFit or Olympic weightlifting. And I'm all great. Go do it. You just like understand where you stand. Just that you can make smart, informed decisions. It's like, this is where I am, this is where I recover from, that's how I'm going to train. Because at the end, you're going to make a lot more progress than if you jump on something that is too advanced for you, murders you, gives you anxiety, lets you go nowhere.
Put you straight in the field
and now you're anxious. It's impacting your everyday life. It's impacting your relationship with your loved ones. You're not getting the results. It's hurting you. You're holding water. Like there's real life implications into that marketing through pro athletes that is being done, that I find very, very disturbing. I don't like it. I don't like when the context is not explained fully. Like, if I'm on steroids, I would tell you, this is what I take, and therefore, this is why I train this way. But if you're not on steroids, you would have to adapt my training session to this and this or that. Yeah. Like, otherwise, it wouldn't be ethical of me to just offer the template without saying, and I say it all the time, I recover from strongman session extremely fast. If you do not, don't change things for you.
Who do you think then, as a general speaking, are the best coaches to make a template or a training program?
The dudes who struggle. The dudes who okay, very good question. I like that question. So first of all, someone who has done the stuff. You have to stop listening to people telling you how to squat when their max squat is 120 kilos. I'm sorry. Like, that shit has to stop. Like, but it doesn't have to be the dude who squatted the world record because he's just great at squatting, because he probably doesn't know how to explain it to you either. What you want is the guy in between, the guy who was in the trenches, who did the work, just wasn't gifted enough to make it to necessarily the highest level, but he's strong as shit. Mm-hmm. He's done all the work, and he's made every mistake on the way there and learned from everyone on the way there. That's the guy you want, because he has an open mind. He's seen different lifters. So you want a coach who's done it. Maybe not at the highest level, probably not that guy, because they make for horrible coaches because they don't understand why you can't do it. So you want the guy that had to work for it, therefore probably didn't make it all the way, but had that tenacious, like, let me learn through mistakes kind of mindset, and looked around, and went like, this is how this works, this is how, oh, let me find the patterns and things like that. So I'm looking for someone that has a deep passion for mankind, for the craft, want to get better, who's done it to a decent level, that we can always discuss what decent means, right? But that passion, that capacity to do some of it to whatever level, associated with some experience. Yeah. If I see those three, there's a coach for you right there. I don't need the guy to be to CrossFit Games to tell me how to do CrossFit, but he has to be in shape. Yes, because, by the way, how can you program if you don't know what the workout feels like? Mm-hmm. Never program a workout you don't do yourself, ever. Because if you don't know what it feels like, you know, like those workouts on paper, you go like, yeah, how hard can it be? And then you do it and you go, oh my God.
Especially week after week after week. Like, if you program for multiple weeks, like, then it's very important to do it yourself first.
There's that too. Because, like, for example, week 10, oh my God, I had to take 3 days off. Mm-hmm. I was so beat up. I abused the coffee again. But I had to take 3 days off, and then this morning we killed the workout, so I feel good. But like week 4, week 8, oh my God. Like, I had to adjust like more skill because I was beat to shit. But so I started like, 6 sets and 4 exercise, and then 3 sets, 3 exercise. Although today I did more. But like it's also helping with nutrition because, for example, is the protocol working? It is, because I've been keeping the strength either steady or going up while getting leaner. And I got a lot leaner in the last 10 weeks. So it is working. Do I have to adjust as the weights go heavier? Will I have to adjust the protocol? Most likely, we'll see about the carbs because I have all the fruits. But my protein is constant. My fats are constant. Now it's a matter of just modulating the carbs, even though I'm still against, starches and sugar. Not against. Starches are somewhat okay. Sugar, stay off. Anyway, longer conversation. But yeah.
So I don't know if this is for lifting and everything too, but in track you have very often that you have a nutrition coach and a training coach.
Yeah.
Who do you think is the best nutrition coach, and do you think the things should be separate or always one person?
No, it can be separate because not a lot of people will not just spend the time of learning both. Mm-hmm. So you want both. But in nutrition coach, I'm going to say the same. Like, did they have to have trained some? Mm-hmm. They have to have achieved something. Like if the nutrition coach is lean and trains really hard, I'm listening, right? Mm-hmm. Or very muscular and train very hard, I'm listening. But an obese or super skinny, never train a day in her life nutrition coach, nah, sorry. Like that idea which is a very new idea, by the way, that you can rely on academics for real life things is insane. Yeah. It's not what academics are. Academics are there to teach the shit, not apply it. Yeah. Researchers, not finders. They don't find things, they research things, right? They're there to teach the stuff. They're not there to find it. When it comes to applying it to real stuff, it's like, how come business professors at Yale are not millionaires? They know business. Mm-hmm. They know everything. How come they don't have their own company and are not billionaires if they know business so well? Because they know the theory and they know how to teach it. That's what they do, right? They don't necessarily know how to apply it, because the second you go to real life, turns out the business is more complicated than you thought it was, because you have to deal with people. So it's not, you can't run a business on accounting alone. I got news for you. You need to understand your clients. You need to understand the market. You need to understand people. There's a mix of psychology. And of course, there's some accounting, but there's so many facets, right? That idea of trusting academics for, worldly matters is insane. Like, when have they ever been at the top of, even physicists were not the top academics. Einstein figured out the general relativity being a patent clerk in Zurich, looking outside his window at a construction crew. You know what I mean? So that is not how this works. People don't know that, but for example, what is called, it started only in 1996, like the whole empirical evidence in medicine based stuff started in 96. I mean, that's only 30 years old. Like, that's all. Like, before that, it was clinicians, it was all that stuff. That idea, like, we have to look at studies to understand anything. That empirical-based medicine. That was 1996. That's it. 30 years old. So the world is shifting toward an admiration of the academics that is very, very dangerous. Like, you don't want that. Like on many levels, and we see that in America right now and stuff like that. Like, there's real dangers to that. So, and you see more and more physios that just come out of school with their physiotherapy stuff that want to teach people how to move. That's where I get pissed. I'm like, no. Your stuff is post-surgery, 6 weeks window. Don't stay out of that. You're awesome at that. Rehab. You do that. You don't tell me how to deadlift. Because you don't know, because you've never done it anyway, and you never study it and everything. So, but this is the push we see more and more. And so, you know what? Because it sounds scientific. They use fancy terms and they talk about your seventh rib, and then
words over actions. Right?
Words over action, and then so that's the
people
guy.
People forget
like,
that you actually have to do the shit and not just talk about it.
It's like the guy saying, "Oh, you're, like my arm was shaking. It's your shoulder." It's like, no, dude, it's my bicep. I know. That's how I'm fixing it. If you look at my last video, it doesn't move anymore. Why? Because I'm engaging the biceps better. It's like, but they come out of school and they don't do the shit themselves, and then they just can't wait to tell the whole world how to do it correctly, even though they have no experience. So I want someone who went into the trenches, who made mistakes and who learned from the mistakes. And once he's made enough mistakes, can come, who has done the shit long enough and come and go like, you know what, I've made all the mistakes, I've learned from it. So there's certain level of humility as well. And can go like, this is what I've seen on my clients that works. And then we can have a conversation.
Yeah, because I think if you made the mistakes yourself and came back from it, you have a capacity to adjust, which I think is very necessary if you work with different type of clients in general.
Right, and this is what you see in the nutrition field today is black and white conversations. You're a carnivore diet, you're a vegan, you're this, you're a low fat, you're a high fat, you're like they call me a low carb guy. I'm not a low carb guy. I eat fruits all day. Even before that, I had like a liter of chocolate milk a day. During my training, I was never a low carb guy. I was a timing guy. I'm a human guy, not like how does it work for human? If you want to call me nervous system guy, okay, I'm a nervous system guy because everything goes through nervous system anyway.
Love boxes.
Right, but so if I'm going to choose a nutrition person, I don't want someone who just has an academic degree and is capable of giving me fancy word, and I don't want someone who's stuck with just one diet. Oh, that's how I do things. You know, like macros. If the person starts to talk about macros, I'm out. Because I want the nutrition coach to explain to me how to get my digestion better. If your nutrition guy, person, woman, guy, takes into account your sleep and is explaining to you how to get better digestion, therefore more nutrients out of your food, I like him or her already. If they don't, then what is the conversation about? Oh, you know, protein do that if you digest them. It's not about the food, it's the food ingested, it's about the food digested. Mm-hmm. That one, if I can't have that conversation with a nutrition person, then I'm out. I'm out already. And then they go like, well, carbs this, carbs that. I'm like, that is not how the system works. And it's going to be in a way the same thing from training then. It's not about training ingested. It's about training digested. It's like, can you recover? Can you do the 5 sets of 10 to 15 reps for 4 or 5 exercises? Can you recover from it? Or because if you can't, like you might be doing the stuff, but you're not doing the stuff. You're just in the gym moving the weight, but all you're doing is grinding and is giving you no results and hurting you, giving you anxiety because you're putting so much energy into it. You're blasted, but you don't see the results. Like at some point we have to, you know, prediction versus observation, right? You put the work, what results are you getting out of it? Because if the answer is none, then you got to change something. Like you got to adapt, you got to, you know, try to make it work for you. Is it frustrating? Very. Is it complicated? Most of the time, especially on the stuff you're not good at. So the stuff you're good at will come to you naturally. You barely have to do anything. Awesome. The stuff you're not good at, that's where the fun is. Right, so that's when you need someone who has experience going like, okay, your shoulders don't grow. What are we going to do? Is it high rep, low rep? Is it like... And the answer is always, it depends. It's always complicated. It's always like, you know, the grind of, like, I'll tell you in 10 weeks. No one wants to hear that. Like the protocol, the 8-week groups that I do, and then the one coming up on Friday, is like 8 weeks. Let me show you how to start. I'll put you on the path of. But are you going to learn to be under 5% body fat in 8 weeks? Fuck no. It's ridiculous. That's not how things work. What you want to do is you want to learn about what works for you a little bit. And if I can tell you something about nutrition, it's exactly like training, is the changes have to be minute. It has to be very small incremental changes. And then you change one thing, you put it in, you see how you react to it. That takes a couple of weeks. Change another thing. See how you react to it. Takes a couple of weeks at a time. So suddenly, it takes a long time. It takes 2 years.
Hard to sell.
Hard to sell. If I tell you I have a plan, but it took me 2 years to get off sugar. After many fails, and then, but it took me 3 years to figure out how to get lean without being tired, without being flat. Because I was cutting the food too much or stuff like, you know what I wasn't doing is I wasn't doing that small incremental changes. I had to slow things down and go like, oh, let me try this, but that's the Q training that helped me with that. And by the way, you're not gonna get lean and round without the training going with it. So You can have a nutrition coach, but if you don't train properly, it won't work. You can train properly, not have the nutrition, it won't work either. Yeah. It's a combination of both, but like we need to stop treating the body as an object. So that fascination with nutrition allowing us to be lean or getting bigger is absurd. That is not how this works. What we need is body as a subject. Body as a subject is incremental changes, very small, minute, and we learn what the effects are on the person, and then from there we switch, and then from there we switch. Yeah. It's giving us 6, like everything else is. It's always that. But yeah, try to sell that one, and you're not going to make a pill out of it. You can't put the Q training into a pill. Can I make you leaner with a protocol? Yeah, I need the Q training to do it though. Mm-hmm. But then you'll be better, and that's why you'll be leaner, because you'll be better first. And a better you will be a person closer to your normal baseline. Why? Because your relationship with food will change, and then we move forward. It's a human being thing.
Yeah, and in a way it's also undoing a lot of bad behavior and getting back to the true
and
self.
fucking yourself. That is so important.
That's one of the first things you told me.
Yeah.
Like you taught me when we started way back to train, is like my job is actually to undo a lot of thought behavior.
That's not the word I use, but I was right even back then. It is the job. It's 70% of the job is unfuck yourself. I swear. If you just take away the bad habits, you make so much progress. Yeah. Where you go, really? Really? I didn't need to do it? No, you didn't. And I've done it too. That's why I know. It's because I made all those mistakes. That's the job. Most of the result will come from you unfucking yourself, honestly.
Yeah. Looking within and finding the true talent that was there all along.
Are you doing the stuff because you were told? Mm-hmm. Body as an object, or are you doing the stuff because it works for you, body as a subject? Like, are you doing that exercise because you know it does this, or because that dude is doing it, or that woman is doing it, or because you were told it was great, or you saw it on YouTube, or did you see it on YouTube and then go try it and realize it was great for you? Sometimes it happens. That's usually how we learn stuff. Mm-hmm. Right. But that's the work. That's the work. So that's what I would tell you to do. Is that? Oh, we are at 50 minutes already. That went fast.
So one last question. Do you think Matteo is a good co-host?
I think Matteo is, by the way, asleep and having dreams right now, so he didn't disturb us too much, so I think he can come back. We'll let you guys decide, but he was a good boy.
Like a little
yeah,
baby.
Exactly. He's a big baby, but he's still a baby. So there you go. Anyway, that's today, and then we shall be back next week.
Right.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you, guys.